The throne room of Velshara gleamed under the soft light of its crystal chandeliers. Each crystal was mined from the deepest caverns of the planet and polished by generations of artisans. Their glow reflected on the polished floors, making the massive room shimmer like a starfield. This was the heart of the Kethari Dominion, the empire ruled by Empress Lyran Valsai, and no one dared enter without permission. Lyran sat upon her throne, a chair carved from a single block of black crystal. Its edges were sharp yet smooth, and its height made her seem taller than she actually was. Her silver robes flowed around her, catching the light in the folds like liquid metal. Around her the court murmured and shuffled, advisors whispering about politics, taxes, and trade routes. But today Lyran felt a strange emptiness. Something unsettled her. For generations the Kethari had ruled peacefully. Their borders were secure. Their fleets patrolled the stars, keeping threats far away. Yet every now and then old stories surfaced. Stories her advisors whispered with trembling voices. Stories of humans, a race said to have been reckless and strong, capable of acts no one could imagine. Legends said humans were extinct. The last records of them were over 1,000 cycles old. Entire fleets vanished, entire planets were abandoned, and yet somehow the stories persisted. Lyran had always dismissed them. Myths were for children, she thought. And yet, the feeling of unease grew stronger with every passing cycle. It began with a faint disturbance in the palace sensors. A shimmer of energy too small to trace, a signal too faint to read. At first the technicians dismissed it. Ghost readings, they said, but Lyran was not convinced. She leaned forward, her fingers brushing the armrest of her throne. "Prepare the scanners," she ordered. Her voice was calm but carried authority. "I want a full sweep of the palace grounds." The head technician, a tall figure with luminous eyes, nodded. "Of course, Your Majesty. But there is nothing in the immediate vicinity, nothing but routine energy flows." Lyran's gaze did not waver. She had seen the data herself. There was something that did not belong. The day passed slowly. Courtiers discussed trade, emissaries, and neighboring worlds, but Lyran's mind remained elsewhere. She stared at the far end of the throne room, at the massive double doors made of reinforced steel and crystal. Beyond them lay the entrance to the palace, a place no one should enter without permission. And then, without warning, the doors began to open. The sound was faint at first, a soft sliding hum, but it echoed through the vast chamber like a distant drum. Courtiers froze. Guards reached for their weapons. Lyran's heart beat faster, though her face remained calm. Through the doors stepped a figure. At first glance he seemed ordinary, a humanoid form, upright, walking steadily. But something about him drew every eye. His armor was scratched and worn, unlike anything the Dominion had seen in 1,000 cycles. On his chest was a symbol, faint but unmistakable, a Terran eagle, the emblem of a race thought to be lost forever. The courtiers whispered among themselves, voices trembling. "Impossible," one said. "It cannot be." Lyran rose from her throne, her silver robes flowing like water. Her eyes narrowed. She studied the stranger carefully. He was tall, taller than most humans in the old records, with broad shoulders and a calm presence. His helmet had a visor that reflected the crystal lights, but when he lifted it, his eyes met hers. They were human eyes, brown, warm, and full of something she could not describe. Courage, determination. Lyran had read countless historical records, watched holograms of battles, and studied the supposed traits of humans. Yet looking at this one, she realized that what she saw could not be contained in any record. "Who dares enter my throne room unannounced?" Lyran's voice rang across the chamber, clear and commanding. The human bowed slightly, not in fear, but in respect. His voice was calm, measured, and resonant. "I am Captain Elias, Ward of Earth," he said. Every word carried weight, as if he had lived 1,000 years and learned patience beyond comprehension. The court gasped. The name Earth had not been spoken in centuries. It was a word almost forgotten, a whisper of a time when humans ruled their own worlds and explored the stars. An advisor stepped forward, eyes wide with disbelief. "Your Majesty, that cannot be true. Humans were destroyed over 1,000 cycles ago." Elias's expression did not change. "Then the records are incomplete," he said simply. "I am proof that they were wrong." Lyran motioned for silence. She studied him, noticing the details of his armor. It was old, yes, but functional. The markings on it were not ceremonial. They were practical, meant for survival. His boots had seen dust from distant planets. His gloves were worn at the fingertips. He carried no obvious weapons, yet the aura around him spoke of experience, of someone who had walked through storms, literal and metaphorical. "Why are you here?" Lyran asked, her voice softer now, tinged with curiosity. "If your race is gone, why come to my world?" Elias took a slow step forward, his boots echoing on the polished floor. "I came to see if the galaxy still remembers us," he said. "I came to see if our stories, our mistakes, and our victories still matter." Lyran frowned. "Stories do not matter when the people are gone. The galaxy moves on." "Then perhaps it moves too quickly," he said, his eyes scanning the room, pausing briefly on the star maps etched into the walls. "Perhaps it forgets the sparks that once lit the stars." A murmur ran through the court. Lyran felt a strange mix of fear and fascination. There was something about this human that did not belong in a world ruled by Cathari logic and order. He had the calm of someone who had faced impossible odds and survived. The head of the palace guards, a tall Cathari with iridescent skin, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, shall I remove him?" Lyran held up her hand. "No, let him speak. I will decide." She turned back to Elias. "You claim to be a human," she said. "Yet all records say you should not exist. Show me proof." Elias reached into his armor and pulled out a small object wrapped in dark cloth. He unwrapped it slowly, revealing a piece of metal unlike any material Lyran had ever seen. It shimmered softly, reflecting light in complex patterns. The inscriptions on it were old Terran script, some letters etched in a way no Cathari technique could replicate. "This," he said, holding it high, "is a fragment of our world, a shard of our past. Examine it if you doubt me." A hush fell over the throne room. Scholars hurried forward, scanning the metal with their devices. Energy readings, material composition, isotopic analysis. Nothing matched anything in Dominion history. It was unique, authentic. Lyran's heart raced. The legends were true. Not all humans were gone. This one lived. "You may speak with me privately," Lyran said finally. "We will see if your story is true. For now, remain where you are." Elias inclined his head. "As you wish, Your Majesty." As the courtiers backed away, Lyran motioned for the doors to close. Once alone, she studied him more closely. There was no fear in his eyes, no arrogance, just a calm determination that unsettled her. She had never met a being so small in number yet so large in presence. "Tell me," she said quietly, "how did you survive when all your kind perished?" Elias's expression softened, almost sad. "We did not perish," he said. "We endured. We left, we hid, and we waited. And now we have returned, not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy that humanity once existed, and still has a role to play." Lyran leaned back, silent for a long moment. The truth of what he said was heavy. If he spoke the truth, the galaxy had been mistaken for centuries. Humans were no longer myths. They were alive, and one had just walked into her throne room. Outside, the court buzzed with whispers and speculation. Inside, Lyran felt a spark she had not known in her long life: curiosity, respect, a strange, thrilling excitement. The galaxy, she realized, had not seen the last of humans, and perhaps she thought it never would. The throne room was silent after Captain Elias Ward's unexpected entrance. Even the guards, who were trained to react instantly to intruders, stood frozen. Their instincts screamed that something extraordinary had happened, yet their minds struggled to process it. A single human, alive, standing calmly in the heart of the Cathari Dominion, was more than any of them had seen in a millennium. Empress Lyran Valsai remained seated upon her throne. Though her posture had changed, she was no longer the untouchable ruler of an empire at peace. She was a leader faced with proof of a truth she had long thought impossible. The human before her, with his calm demeanor and unwavering gaze, challenged everything she had ever known. "Your name is Elias Ward," she repeated, her voice quiet but commanding. "You claim to be human. You claim your race still exists, and yet you stand before us alone after all this time. Why should I believe you?" Elias straightened. "Because I am here," he said simply. His voice carried a weight that silenced even the whispering courtiers. "I have traveled farther than anyone alive can imagine. I have survived worlds that no one should survive. And I have come to warn your people and to remind you that humanity is not gone." An advisor stepped forward, his scales shimmering nervously in the soft light. Your Majesty, he said, this is nonsense. Humans were destroyed long ago. Entire fleets vanished. Countless worlds were abandoned. To claim that one has survived is impossible, Lyran interjected sharply. Her voice cut through the advisor's protest. I am listening to him. Not to you. The advisor's scales bristled, but he fell silent. Lyran turned her attention back to Elias, studying him carefully. There was something undeniable in the human's presence, a quiet confidence, a calm that came from experience, and something she could not name. Show me proof, she demanded. If your people still exist, show me something that cannot be faked. Elias reached into his armor once again. From a compartment in his chest plate, he produced a small metallic fragment wrapped in dark cloth. He unwrapped it carefully, revealing a piece of Terran alloy, a metal no Cathari forge could replicate. The surface was etched with symbols, old Terran script that predated the Great Galactic Union. The courtiers gasped. Scholars hurried forward, devices in hand, scanning the fragment from every angle. Energy readings, isotopic compositions, and structural analyses. None of it matched any known material. This is authentic, said one of the scholars, voice trembling. There is no known forge in the galaxy that could create this. It is human. Lyran's eyes narrowed. Her hand rested on the arm of her throne. Very well, she said quietly. You will speak with me alone. The court will observe from a distance, but no one may interrupt. The courtiers exchanged anxious glances, but quickly obeyed. Guards stepped back, forming a wide perimeter around the throne. The room felt charged, as if the air itself held its breath. Elias followed Lyran to a private chamber adjacent to the throne room. The room was smaller, intimate, lined with windows that overlooked the sprawling city below. Light from the crystal towers outside reflected off the polished floor, casting a shimmering glow that seemed almost alive. Lyran gestured for him to sit. Tell me everything, she said. How did you survive? How did your people vanish and yet continue to exist? Elias took a slow breath. It began centuries ago, he said, voice steady. When the collapse of Sol approached, humanity faced extinction. Wars, plagues, and environmental collapse wiped out most of our population. Our leaders knew we could not survive openly. So we built the Exodus fleet, ships capable of traveling beyond mapped space, beyond the borders of any known civilization. We placed our people into cryosleep, hoping that someday in the distant future humanity could return. Lyran listened intently, absorbing every word. And you were the last to awaken? She asked. I was not alone, Elias said. Others from my fleet awakened as well, but over time ships were lost or destroyed. Many of us drifted for decades, centuries even, beyond the edges of known space. My ship, the TSS Valiant, was one of the last to emerge. Its automated systems guided me back toward civilization, toward signs of life. That is how I arrived here, to your throne room. Lyran frowned. And why come here? Why not remain hidden? Elias's eyes met hers. Because hiding changes nothing. Humanity may be small in number, but it can still make a difference. I came to warn you. I came to remind your people that some threats cannot be ignored, even by empires as strong as yours. Lyran considered his words. The Dominion had known peace for centuries. There had been no real wars, no major threats. Yet something about Elias's tone suggested urgency. His calm confidence was not arrogance. It was certainty. Tell me about this threat, she said. Elias nodded. There are forces moving beyond the galactic rim, he explained. Energy signatures unlike anything recorded by modern sensors. Silent, efficient, consuming worlds without warning. My ship detected them long before I arrived. They are approaching. Your people may be safe now, but their arrival will change everything. Lyran's brow furrowed. The Dominion had powerful fleets and advanced defenses, but even she could sense the danger in Elias's words. He was not exaggerating. The calm in his voice suggested experience, someone who had faced impossible odds and survived. She leaned back in her chair, studying him. And you expect me to believe that one human alone could influence the fate of the galaxy? Elias's expression softened. Not alone, he said. But humans have a way of inspiring others. Courage, strategy, and unity are as much a weapon as any fleet. I'm not here to conquer, Your Majesty. I am here to remind you that even a single spark can light a galaxy. Lyran's mind raced. The tales of humanity she had read as a child, stories dismissed as myths, suddenly felt real. This one human carried the weight of centuries, yet he spoke with humility. There was no arrogance, no desire for power, only purpose. The private chambers were quiet for a long moment. Lyran studied him closely, noting the small details. His armor, though worn, was carefully maintained. His hands were scarred but steady. His eyes held a calm wisdom that came from experience. She realized, with a mix of awe and disbelief, that humans were more than just stories. They were endurance incarnate. "Very well," she said finally. "I will hear you out. But understand this, Captain Ward, my people are cautious. They will question everything you say. They may even doubt the truth despite your presence." Elias nodded. "I understand. I do not seek trust immediately. I only seek a chance to show that humanity's legacy is not gone, and that the galaxy should not forget it." Lyran's attention returned to the city below. The towers glowed under the light of Velshara's twin suns, casting long reflections on the streets. She thought about the legends of humans, the stories told to her ancestors, the warnings whispered by scholars, and now she realized that the legends had been true. "You will remain here," she said, "under observation, but I will allow you to speak freely. If your warnings are true, if your presence is genuine, then perhaps your arrival is not a coincidence. Perhaps it is necessary." Elias inclined his head once more. "Thank you, Your Majesty. That is all I ask." Back in the throne room, the courtiers whispered among themselves. Some were terrified, some fascinated. The guards remained tense, unsure of what action to take next. And yet a strange sense of hope began to spread. Even in disbelief, they could feel it. The presence of a human, the last of a forgotten race, carried a power that no machine or weapon could replicate. Lyran returned to her throne, her mind still on Elias. She could not shake the feeling that his arrival marked the beginning of something extraordinary. A warning, yes, but also a promise. Humanity had not vanished. They had endured. And now they were back. The sun outside began to set, casting long shadows across the throne room. Light danced on the crystal floors, shimmering like stars in a galaxy far away. For the first time in centuries, the Cathari Dominion felt the thrill of uncertainty, and with it, the possibility of greatness. For the legends were true. Humans were not gone, and one had just walked into her throne room. The private chamber was quiet now, the murmurs of the throne room replaced by the soft hum of the palace's life support systems. Outside, the twin suns of Velshara dipped lower, casting a golden-orange glow across the polished floors. Empress Lyran Valsai sat across from Captain Elias Ward, her silver robes pooling elegantly around her. She studied him carefully, sensing there was more to this human than mere survival. "You spoke of an Exodus fleet," she said slowly. "Tell me more. How did your people vanish? How did you survive while the rest of humanity was lost to history?" Elias leaned back in his chair, hands folded over the worn edges of his armor. "It is a long story," he said quietly, "but one that cannot be ignored. Humanity reached a crossroads centuries ago. Our home sol became unstable. Wars, resource shortages, and environmental collapse threatened our survival. Leaders knew that staying in one place would be the end of us. So we built the Exodus fleet, ships designed to carry the last humans beyond known space, into places where no species had ever traveled." Lyran listened intently, the weight of his words settling in her mind. "Cryosleep," she asked. "You mentioned your people were in cryosleep. Did all of them survive?" "Not all," Elias admitted. "Many ships were lost to time, gravity wells, or mechanical failure. Some never woke from cryosleep. Others drifted for decades, even centuries, before emerging. My ship, the TSS Valiant, was among the last to awaken. Automated systems guided me toward civilizations, sending signals to any world that might respond. And I found Velshara." Lyran's brow furrowed. "So you have been alone for—" "How long?" "Long enough to forget the exact count of cycles," Elias said, his gaze distant. "Long enough to see that survival alone is not enough. Humanity is not meant to endure quietly. We are meant to act, to inspire, to remind others that courage can change the course of history." The Empress regarded him silently, realizing that she was listening, not just to a human, but to a strategist and a historian, a being who carried the memory of an entire lost civilization in his eyes. "Why come to me?" she asked. "Why not remain hidden until humanity could rebuild?" Elias met her gaze directly. "Because hiding changes nothing. The galaxy moves on. forgetting the sparks that once lit the stars. I have seen energy signatures at the edges of mapped space, strange consuming waves of destruction. I came to warn you, not just for humanity but for all who live in the galaxy. Your people are strong, yes, but no empire can stand against what is coming alone. Lyran's heart quickened. The Dominion had always been confident, its fleets vast and its borders secure. Yet there was something in Elias's calm certainty that unsettled her. She had faced threats before, but never one that could render centuries of preparation meaningless. "Tell me about your civilization," she said. "Your history, your victories, your failures. I want to understand why humans endure." Elias nodded. "Humanity's strength is not in our technology alone. We build, yes, and we fight, yes, but above all we adapt. We endure hardship because we choose to face it, not because we are the strongest. That choice has allowed us to survive where others have fallen. Even when we drifted into the void, even when we lost entire fleets, we continued quietly, hoping for a chance to return. And now that chance has arrived." Lyran leaned forward, her curiosity growing. "And the other ships of your fleet? Are any still active?" Elias shook his head. "Some awakened and were lost again. Others never recovered, but a few remain. I communicate with them when possible, sending coded signals through channels no one else monitors. They, like me, continue to observe, ready to act when the galaxy needs humanity once more." The Empress's mind was racing. The stories she had read in historical archives suddenly seemed incomplete. Humans had not been reckless destroyers, as many myths suggested. They had been survivors, strategists, pioneers. They had endured in silence, waiting for the right moment to return. "You speak of duty, of warning," Lyran said, "and yet you came here alone. Did you not fear what might happen?" Elias smiled faintly. "Fear is part of life," he said. "It teaches caution, sharpens judgment, but it does not dictate action. I acted because it was necessary. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite it." Lyran studied him carefully. There was a quiet honesty in his words, a clarity she had not expected. Humans, it seemed, were more than myths. They were reminders of what it meant to endure, to act, to shape history through will alone. "Your arrival is not just a warning," she said slowly. "It is a statement. Humanity has survived. Humanity has returned. And now you bring knowledge that even the Dominion lacks." Elias nodded. "I bring knowledge and guidance. But I do not seek power or position. I am not here to rule. I am here to share what I know, to help prepare for what is coming. That is all I can do." Lyran's gaze softened, her mind working through the implications. The Dominion had grown strong through centuries of stability, but strength without preparation could be fragile. Perhaps this human, a relic of a forgotten race, could teach them something more than technology or strategy. Perhaps he could teach them endurance. She gestured toward a small table in the chamber. Holoscreens projected star maps and historical records, displaying worlds that humans had once touched, planets that had been abandoned, fleets that had been lost. Elias stepped forward, pointing out patterns that only a mind trained to see history and strategy could discern. "Observe this," he said, tracing a path through the maps. "These were our colonies, our fleets. Each line represents a journey, each point a world where humans lived. Notice the gaps. These are the ships lost to time, systems abandoned. But notice also the connections, the resilience. Even when cut off, humans adapted, survived, and waited for opportunity." Lyran studied the maps, impressed despite herself. The level of detail, the understanding of history, the ability to interpret patterns across centuries. This was no ordinary intelligence. It was the mind of a race that had learned to endure against impossible odds. "You have spent centuries observing the galaxy," she said quietly, "and now you have returned. Do you intend to rebuild your civilization?" Elias's expression grew solemn. "Not yet," he said. "My mission is to ensure the galaxy survives what is coming. Humanity will rebuild in time, but first we must prepare. The choices made now will determine whether we can rise again." Lyran nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. The galaxy had grown complacent. Empires had expanded. Fleets had patrolled borders, and yet they were unaware of threats lurking in the shadows. The human before her was more than a survivor. He was a reminder of what courage and foresight could achieve. "You speak as though you have seen it all," she said, "and yet you return to a throne room seeking guidance from an empire you barely know. Why trust me?" Elias met her gaze steadily. Because you have faced impossible odds yourself, he said. Because you lead an empire built on endurance and unity. And because even now your people can choose to act before it is too late. I have seen leaders falter when confronted with truth, but I sense in you the willingness to act. Lyran's heart beat faster. She had faced many challenges as Empress, yet none had prepared her for this. A human thought extinct, standing before her, offering wisdom and warning. The weight of centuries pressed on her shoulders, but with it came a spark of excitement, a thrill of anticipation. I will listen, she said finally. Tell me everything. Leave nothing hidden. If what you say is true, the Dominion must act. Not tomorrow, not next cycle, but now. Elias inclined his head. Very well, he said. But first you must understand the nature of what is coming. You must understand why humanity endured and why your people must be ready to face challenges that no record can predict. Lyran gestured for him to continue. Outside, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, and the throne room grew dim, lit only by the glow of the crystal chandeliers. Inside, a new alliance began to form, between a human thought lost to time and a queen who ruled an empire spanning the stars. Together, they would uncover the secrets of the past, prepare for the future, and remind the galaxy that courage and endurance were forces stronger than any weapon. For the first time in centuries, Empress Lyran Valsai felt a sense of wonder, of possibility. Humans had not vanished. They had endured, and one had returned to walk among the stars once more. And in that chamber, under the fading light of Velshara's suns, she realized that history was not finished. The story of humanity was only just beginning. The night on Velshara had deepened, yet the palace remained alive with activity. Inside the private chamber, Captain Elias Ward and Empress Lyran Valsai pored over star maps, charts, and projections. The soft hum of the holoscreens filled the air, mixing with the quiet tension that hung between them. Elias traced a path across the outer edges of the galaxy. Look here, he said, pointing to several faint energy readings on the map. These systems are being consumed one by one. Entire worlds vanish without warning. No conventional weapon can stop it. No fleet can outpace it. Lyran leaned closer, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. What is it? She asked, her voice steady but curious. Some unknown species? A weapon? Elias shook his head. Not exactly. It is energy unlike any we have encountered before. Highly efficient, adaptive, and silent. It spreads like a wave across space. Some call it the Void Wave. We have no records of its origin. Only one thing is certain. It will not stop at borders. It will consume anything in its path. The Empress absorbed his words carefully. The Dominion had faced threats before, rogue fleets, pirates, even hostile alien species. But none approached the scale of what Elias described. The entire galaxy, thriving in its complexity, could vanish if the wave continued unchecked. Why come here? She asked, looking him in the eye. Why warn me? Why not continue observing from afar? Elias paused, his fingers hovering over the map. Because Velshara is at the center of this part of the galaxy. If it falls, neighboring systems will follow. Your fleets are strong, but strength alone will not save you. Preparation, coordination, and strategy are needed. That is why I came, to guide you and to remind you that courage and unity are as powerful as any weapon. Lyran nodded slowly. She had always prided herself on her empire's strength, yet she felt a shiver run down her spine. The Dominion's fleets, advanced and disciplined as they were, had never faced a threat that could erase entire systems without warning. Outside the chamber, the palace sensors confirmed the anomaly. Energy readings fluctuated in real time, moving steadily closer to the Dominion's borders. It was silent, yet its presence was undeniable. A wave of dark energy creeping across the galaxy like ink in water. I need to alert the Council, Lyran said, rising from her seat. They must understand the danger before it reaches us. Elias nodded. Prepare them carefully. Fear will only slow action. They must listen, understand, and act. The next day, the Grand Council chamber was filled with Ketheri leaders, ambassadors, and military strategists. Lyran entered first, her presence commanding silence. Behind her, Elias followed, standing tall and calm, the last of a forgotten race now visible to all who doubted his existence. Your Majesty, an advisor began nervously, we have examined your guest's claims, and yet entire civilizations have survived threats we cannot even imagine. Why should we believe a human? Lyran raised her hand. Because he is here, she said. Because he carries knowledge and experience that no record contains. And because the danger he describes is approaching, if we do nothing, we will not have the chance to test our strength. Elias stepped forward, projecting a holographic image of the void wave across the chamber. Systems vanished from the map one by one, consumed by the spreading darkness. The council murmured, some in disbelief, others in fear. This wave cannot be stopped by conventional weapons, Elias explained. It adapts, consumes energy, and moves faster than any fleet can chase. But strategy, preparation, and unity can slow it. That is what I'm here to help with. A general, his scales shining under the chamber lights, stepped forward. And you, human, propose we trust your methods over our own centuries of experience? Elias met his gaze without flinching. I do not ask for blind trust, he said. I ask for action. Observe, learn, and decide. The galaxy has forgotten what humans can endure. I am here to remind you. The council debated long into the cycle. Some believed Elias, impressed by his calm certainty and strategic insight. Others doubted, arguing that the Dominion's fleets were sufficient. Lyran listened carefully, weighing every word. She had spent centuries learning to read not just data but people, and she sensed that Elias spoke truth, not boast or bluff. Finally, she rose, her voice carrying the weight of her authority. We will act, she declared. We will prepare our fleets, strengthen our borders, and coordinate with neighboring systems. Captain Ward will guide us. If humans endured against impossible odds, then we too can endure. But we must act together, without hesitation. Elias inclined his head, a faint smile crossing his face. Then we begin. Over the following cycles, Velshara transformed. Fleets were mobilized, training intensified, and defensive systems upgraded under Elias's guidance. He shared strategies that humans had developed long ago, combining tactics with the Cathari Dominion's advanced technology. Lyran observed quietly as her people adapted. There was resistance at first, fear, doubt, skepticism, but slowly the lessons of a human strategist began to take root. Fleet commanders adjusted maneuvers. Planetary defenses shifted in anticipation of the void wave, and for the first time, the Dominion felt a renewed sense of unity. Elias moved among them, patient and calm, answering questions, adjusting plans, and demonstrating techniques. His presence was not commanding in the traditional sense. He did not take authority for himself. Instead, he inspired confidence, reminding Cathari leaders that courage and intelligence were as crucial as firepower. One evening, Lyran walked with Elias along the palace balconies, overlooking the city lights of Velshara. You have taught us much, she said quietly. And yet this wave, can it truly be stopped? Elias looked out at the stars, his eyes distant. Stopped? Perhaps not entirely. But slowed, countered, and survived, yes. That is what humans do. We face impossible odds, adapt, and endure. That is the legacy of our species, and it can be shared. Lyran nodded, understanding. The Dominion had grown confident in its fleets, in its technology, in its stability. But she realized now that the galaxy was not predictable. Strength alone was not enough. It required insight, courage, and the willingness to act before it was too late. Days passed, and the void wave continued its silent advance. Elias monitored the readings constantly, adjusting strategies and advising Lyran on every decision. The council had grown more confident, seeing results from their coordinated preparations. Even the most skeptical generals began to trust the human's guidance, marveling at his ability to anticipate the wave's movements. Then, the first systems at the edge of the Dominion's borders reported activity. Sensors detected the familiar energy fluctuations, stars dimming, planets disappearing. The void wave had arrived, the fleets were ready. Defensive grids hummed with power, and strategic points were reinforced. Cathari commanders coordinated with precision, each move carefully planned. And at the center, Elias observed the unfolding events, offering guidance where needed. The first encounter was swift and precise. The void wave struck a border system, consuming energy with frightening speed. Yet because of Elias's strategies, the Dominion fleets intercepted, redirecting energy flows and using adaptive shields to protect planets. It was the first victory, small but significant. Word spread quickly throughout the Empire. The people saw that the wave, though powerful, could be confronted with intelligence, courage, and unity. Lyran watched from her command chamber, her heart swelling with pride and relief. The human beside her had not only warned them but had also reminded them of a truth she had long forgotten. That courage, strategy, and endurance could achieve what raw strength alone could not. Elias's voice came over the comm link, calm as ever. "The wave adapts," he said. "We must remain vigilant. But this is proof. Humanity's methods, combined with your people's strength, can hold the line. We can endure," the Empress nodded. "And we will," she said firmly. "Because we choose to act, because we choose courage, because we remember that even one spark can light the galaxy." As the stars shimmered in the skies above Velshara, the Dominion prepared for the battles to come, and though the void wave loomed a silent reminder of the galaxy's fragility, hope had returned. The legends were true. Humans had not vanished. And one of them, standing calm and resolute beside the Empress, had shown the galaxy that endurance, intelligence, and courage could shape the fate of entire worlds. The stage was set. The void wave would test them, challenge them, and push them to the limits. But for the first time in centuries, the Cathari Dominion, guided by a human strategist, felt ready, and the galaxy waited, holding its breath, as one human and one Empress prepared to face the greatest threat it had ever known. The stars above Velshara had never looked so alive, yet so tense. Every sensor, every fleet, and every command post monitored the silent approach of the void wave. Empress Lyran Valsai stood on the highest balcony of the palace, her silver robes flowing in the soft wind, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the planetary system. Beside her, Captain Elias Ward remained calm, his presence steady as ever. "The wave is closer than we expected," Elias said, his voice quiet but firm. "It will reach the outer systems within cycles. We must act decisively." Lyran nodded. "Are the fleets ready?" she asked. "They are," Elias said, gesturing to the holomap of the Dominion's forces. "Every fleet is positioned according to strategy. Every planetary defense is active. And we have one advantage they do not expect: human tactics." Lyran glanced at him, her curiosity and respect growing. Humans, she realized, had not survived for centuries merely by chance. Their strength was in adaptability and strategy and endurance, and now that legacy would guide the Dominion through its greatest trial. The void wave appeared on sensors as a faint shimmer at first, almost invisible against the backdrop of stars. Then as it moved closer, it grew darker, consuming energy from the systems in its path. The stars themselves seemed to dim one by one as the wave passed. "This is unlike anything we have faced," a fleet commander muttered. "No weapon, no fleet, nothing can stop it." Elias stepped forward, calm and authoritative. "Watch closely," he said. "It can be slowed. It can be countered. It can be confronted with strategy, intelligence, and unity. That is how humanity survived when all hope seemed lost." The fleets moved in precise formations, guided by Elias's strategies and Lyran's command. They used energy diversion techniques, adaptive shields, and synchronized maneuvers that confused the void wave's energy patterns. Though the wave struck systems along the borders, its advance slowed. Planets that should have been consumed remained intact. Lyran watched in awe. The Dominion had faced many threats, yet never one so all-consuming. And yet here was a human, guiding them with methods forgotten by time, teaching them endurance and courage. Elias moved among the fleet command centers, offering advice, adjusting maneuvers, and ensuring that every move was coordinated. He did not demand authority. He inspired it. Each fleet commander followed his guidance, trusting his centuries of experience and understanding of the galaxy's patterns. Then came the first real confrontation. The void wave approached a critical planetary system, its energy threatening to collapse the star itself. The fleet formed a protective barrier, deflecting and redirecting energy while Elias directed every action. The battle was silent yet intense, a dance of light and strategy as ships moved precisely to counter the wave's patterns. It worked. The wave was pushed back, slowed, and diverted. The system remained intact, its people safe. Across the Dominion, hope surged. The legends of humanity were not merely stories, they were lessons alive in the actions of one man. But Elias knew the wave was relentless. Slowing it was one thing. Stopping it completely would require sacrifice. He made a decision that weighed on him. Yet he did not falter. "Lyran," he said quietly, stepping beside her on the balcony, "I can collapse the wormhole gates that feed the wave. But it will cost my ship and possibly my life. Lyran's eyes widened. No, there must be another way. There isn't, he said firmly. This is the only way to protect your people. I have lived a long time, longer than most humans should have. I can do this, and it will give the galaxy a chance to survive. Lyran felt a surge of emotion, a mix of admiration, fear, and sorrow. You don't have to do this alone, she said. I am alone by choice, Elias replied. Courage is not about survival alone. It is about making the choice to act for others, even when the odds are impossible. Humans endure because we act, because we protect what matters. Lyran nodded, understanding the truth of his words. The galaxy had witnessed heroes before, but Elias was different. He carried not just strength, but the legacy of a race that had survived impossible odds and now acted for the greater good. The fleet moved toward the wormhole gates. With Elias at the center, guiding the operation, the void wave sensed resistance, its energy surging and shifting unpredictably. Fleet shields held, energy diversions worked, and the Dominion's forces held the line, but only just. Elias piloted the TSS Valiant toward the gates. The ship's engines roared, systems glowing as he prepared for the final maneuver. Every action was precise, calculated, and filled with purpose. The wormhole gates shimmered with unstable energy, their collapse imminent but dangerous. Do it, Lyran said, her voice steady despite the tension. For the Dominion, for the galaxy. Elias gave a faint smile. For humanity, he said. Then with a controlled maneuver, he initiated the sequence. The wormhole gates began to collapse, releasing massive energy into the void wave, destabilizing it. The wave shrieked across space, its advance halted. For a moment, there was silence. Then sensors confirmed. The void wave had been stopped. Systems that should have fallen remained intact. The galaxy was safe, thanks to one human's courage and sacrifice. Elias's ship, however, was caught in the collapsing energy. Communications went silent. The TSS Valiant was gone. The fleets watched in stunned silence, realizing the cost of the victory. Lyran felt a profound mix of sorrow and gratitude. She had lost a guide, a teacher, and a living legend, but the galaxy lived because of his choice. She raised her voice to the fleet commanders, her words carrying across the communication networks. Captain Elias Ward acted not for glory, not for power, but for life itself. Humanity endures, and so shall we. Remember his courage. Let it inspire you. Across Velshara and beyond, the message spread. The people of the Dominion felt hope, unity, and inspiration. Humanity's legacy, once thought lost, had returned not as conquerors, but as teachers of endurance and courage. Lyran walked along the balcony, looking at the stars. He was remarkable, she whispered. A human, and yet so much more. A voice came from one of her advisors. Your Majesty, the galaxy will speak of this forever. The legends of humans were true, and now they will live in our history not as myths but as heroes. Lyran nodded. Yes, she said, and perhaps one day humanity will return, not as legends but as partners, allies, and guides. Their promise is clear. Courage and endurance can change the fate of the galaxy. In the following cycles, memorials were built in honor of Elias Ward. The Terran Eagle, once a forgotten symbol, became the highest emblem of bravery in the Dominion. Histories were rewritten, stories retold, and the people remembered that day one human walked into the throne room and reminded the galaxy of what courage truly meant. The galaxy was safe, but more importantly, it remembered. Humanity had not vanished. They had endured. They had returned, even if only through the actions of one. And in that single act, the Dominion learned a lesson no weapon could teach, that courage, intelligence, and sacrifice could light the darkest reaches of space. Lyran stood in silence, feeling the weight of the moment. Legend said humans were gone, she whispered. And yet one walked into my throne room. One showed us that survival, courage, and hope are stronger than any darkness. And though Elias was gone, his promise endured. Humanity's legacy would inspire the galaxy for generations, a reminder that even a single spark could ignite the stars. The stars above Velshara shone brighter that night, reflecting the courage of one human who reminded the galaxy that endurance, intelligence, and bravery were the true powers that shaped history. And so, the story of humanity continued, not as myth, not as memory, but as an eternal promise.